Hello, Kraig Chiles, and thanks for joining me.
You got it, Greg.
Um, so, talk to me a little bit, Kraig, about what your feelings are as how this season ended.
Yeah, obviously it's a weird feeling, and probably a feeling that none of us athletes are used to. And it's just kind of the end of the season, cut a little bit short. And it's this weird, period where we're all kind of speculating as to what would have happened, wondering if we're still going to get a shot at playoffs.
Right.
Trying to stay active and fit, but it's definitely not the same as training with your team. So it's just a weird spot to be in, and it's definitely an unusual year for, I think, everybody, all around, fans, players, families, everybody included.
Do you have any interaction with the players at all, or are you guys pretty much all just doing your own thing?
We're pretty much doing our own thing. Obviously, the organization's communicating to us probably once a day, and we're all kind of on the same group chat and messing around with each other, but nothing serious. I know half the guys have gone home, and the other half are kind of bunkered into their house, doing whatever they got to do on their own. And so, we're at a full standstill right now.
What do you have any speculation of your own as to what the league might be doing as far as a playoff is concerned?
Yeah, my understanding or my thought process was the league hasn't completely given up on playoffs yet.
Right.
At this point, I think every day that it goes on, it gets a little bit further and further away from us. I think if we could have quarantined and knocked this out in 2 or 3 weeks and gotten everybody back on the field, say next week or the week after, I think they would have consolidated things and maybe tried to do a quick playoff round or two. But, at this point, I think it's day to day. And I think the longer that it goes, the less likely playoffs are to happen. And, maybe if things change drastically in the next couple of weeks, we still may have a shot at it. Otherwise, it looks unlikely. The other option that I've heard is potentially doing the playoffs almost like a prequel to the season. So, whatever, the end of the summer, August or something like that, or September, getting the 4 to 6 playoff teams back involved, having them train for a week or two, and then letting them kind of go at it before season ends. So they almost go from playoffs right into the beginning of the year. I've heard that's a potential option, but obviously with arena availability, player availability, all that stuff, it makes it extremely, extremely sticky and very much not straightforward.
Well, and it's also not the same team anymore. I mean, you'd have different chemistry, some different players maybe coming in. At the beginning of one season isn't really the same team that finished the season before.
Yeah, no, obviously, when everybody started to go home from their individual teams, it put a big damper on our playoffs potentially going to happen. Because, each day that goes on and everybody's at home and everybody's off doing their own thing, the further away that it gets. And I totally agree. At this point, I would say it's very unlikely to do playoffs in the next 3 months. I would think the best option would be to do it later in the summer as a preseason type tournament almost. But in that same light, the teams are going to be different. The rosters are going to be different. Players are going to be in different forms than they were in this regular season. And I think the San Diego Sockers were in good form going into these playoffs. And I think we had figured out a system that works for us, and we were in a very good position. With that said, I'm sure every other playoff team was feeling themselves as well. But, obviously everybody's erring on the side of caution, and nobody wants to, have their team up and running and have the virus kind of within their group and have themselves opened up to potential litigation or something like that. Hold on, Greg.
I just lost your picture.
Yeah, I'm getting another phone call, which I will take a little bit later.
Okay, there you go. And we just heard about the Olympics are canceling or at least postponing for a year. I understand that Wimbledon is considering the same thing, and these are summer events. So, that pushes it a lot further back than we originally thought when the MASL had postponed their regular season or canceled their regular season, we were looking at maybe a month, maybe two, and now major sporting events are looking well into the summer.
Yeah, I mean, and I think they know something that the general public may not necessarily know. And again, if you're, one of the leaders or the commissioner of a league like that, or the ownership pool, and players are catching viruses that impacts their normal day-to-day work schedule, and it impacts their financial situation, you would think owners and stuff may potentially be liable for a situation like that. And I think that's where everybody on the ownership side and the commission side and the league structure side is erring heavily on the side of caution, because if I get coronavirus and my father-in-law comes over and he gets it, and then he passes it to my dad, and that's 3 household families out of their income, and it all traces back to us, playing in a soccer game that, and that was a question I asked when this originally went down. I think it was a Wednesday, and we had a Friday game in Tacoma, and I was told, quote unquote, by the league that that's a mandatory game and we must play. And I laughed. I said, we don't have workers' comp. Schwab and Phil and Lane and whoever else is involved. What are you going to do for me if I get coronavirus and I have to be quarantined for 3 weeks? Like, what, are you going to come out of pocket? And I think the answer is no. And I think that's why they immediately sent everybody home. So with that said, it is heavy, err on the side of caution. Make sure that we get through this as a country and as a, kind of a global situation, and everybody needs to take it serious, and soccer definitely takes a back burner for the moment.
Well, that's a very good point about the trip up to Tacoma, and I think a little emphasis on that can be made, because Tacoma at the time especially or the Seattle area at the time especially, was the explosion here in our country. And we had just, it was interesting because we had just met the Tacoma Stars on the field just prior, and I'm talking to Nick Pereira and Danny Waltman, and I'm kind of the shake your hand, give you a hug kind of guy. And as we closed up those interviews, I did that, and here these guys are all sweaty and stuff, and I'm thinking, did I just do something stupid?
Yeah, and it's something as simple as that, right? Like being in the wrong place at the wrong time at the gas station or something weird. So, it's important that everybody stays at home and separates themselves and stays quarantined, so we can slow this down and do our best to aid the doctors and nurses and people working in those hospitals that are going to get completely overwhelmed and swamped with cases unless we're responsible.
Right. So on that note, what are you doing to keep yourself busy? What are you doing day to day? Tell everybody what you got going on.
I've done more sanding, painting, landscaping in the last week than ever before. I think I'm an uncertified painter at this moment, and I'm basically doing everything I told my wife I'd do when I have more time in a 2-week period. So it's nice to be home with your family. It's nice to have some downtime to do those things, but I'm a little bit stir crazy. I've got obviously, 3 5-year-olds that are radical at best, and they don't understand why their neighborhood friends can't come over, and they don't understand why they're not being able to go to grandpa and grandma's house every day like they used to. And so, we're a little bit stir crazy, but we're doing our best to mix it up. We're out hiking and fishing kind of on our own when we can, and then back to the house for some arts and crafts and homework type stuff. So, we're doing it. My soccer club is obviously on a break as well. And what we've started this week are virtual sessions over Zoom. And so today I'll be logging on at 3:30 over Zoom, and I'll be running a practice session with my 17 players over the Zoom account, so I can keep them active and fit inside their own house or in their backyard during this rough period as well.
Yeah. So are any of your kids school age?
Well, my daughter's in kindergarten, and the boys are at like a little preschool type thing. So yes and no.
All right. Well, that makes it a little easier. You don't have a real curriculum you have to deal with as far as homeschooling is concerned.
Yes. No, you're right. You know, it's really about keeping them busy and making sure we mix in some alphabet and painting and numbers and stuff like that into their world. But you know, we're healthy and we're staying good. My two boys have asthma. My dad is a dinosaur. My mother-in-law has rheumatoid arthritis. So it's pretty serious around here, and I'm not really messing around.
Right.
In that sense, you know, if my boys catch it with their respiratory issues, it could be very, very serious, very, very quickly. So, you know, we're kind of bunkered in.
All right. And you mentioned that your honey-do list came up, and payable and due, huh?
Yeah, yes. My honey-do list is growing, and I'm taking away things off that list that have been on there for a year. So no, it's going good. You know, it gives us time to do all those little things that we normally kind of push off to the side because we're overwhelmed with other stuff.
Well, I think that I think that from the fans' point of view, I think from the players' point of view, probably too. It would be great to be able to figure out a way to finish out this season. It would be just bizarre to not have any legitimate way to crown some kind of a Ron Newman Cup champion after this season.
I would like to say publicly as well that I've heard rumors through an owner or two. You might guess it's probably the owner that I play for, that they're going to award a champion based on the year that they've had, and that's an absolute joke. And if that happens, I will 100% be against it. You cannot award a champion for having a good league record. If that was the case, we would have won last year. That's not how it works. We have playoffs. This is either a no winner or we've got to show back up down the road and we got to compete to win this. If the MASL picks a random winner, that is absolutely ludicrous and makes zero sense. And I don't think there's a player in our league that would want that ring or want that trophy or want that banner. And if you do, you're kind of a clown.
Right. Well, even if you happen to be on the team that gets the award.
That's exactly what I'm saying. If they're like, San Diego's going to win it because they played good in the last 4 games, like, don't want it. No, thank you. Rather try next year or give it hell later in the summer. Not how it should go down.
I agree, Kraig. Well, thanks a lot for the time and putting up with me trying to get this thing going on.
You got it, Kraig.
Hey, guys, if you like what you just watched, follow me on social media. Go to studyonsoccer.com, click on the Patreon link, and support me there. Thank you very much.